up, everybody? Welcome, 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 welcome. Yeah, I wanted to jump back into BloodBorne. To be honest, I am kind of bored of making Elden Ring stuff. Right now, I'm in the process of making a huge lore video, and it's just kind of got me burnt out. And I started playing through BloodBorne, and just kind of noticed the similarities between the story of BloodBorne and the story of Elden Ring, and its use of psychology. And I thought it'd be fun just to kind of do a pretty casual walkthrough and just give my compared to game music. Oh, thanks, dude. I'll turn game music down. How's that? Is that better? Bring my mic closer as well. So yeah, just wanted to kind of pass the time, honestly, until the DLC of Elden Ring comes out. And I freaking love BloodBorne. I would say BloodBorne is probably my favorite FromSoft game. It would have been amazing to see what they could have done if, like the graphics and frame rate and stuff, if it was made for gaming audio. It was a bit near perfect. Yeah, man. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate it. Game audio up a bit. All right, I can do that. How about there? I think if this game could have been for PS5 or PC, man, it would have been so epic. The story and like just the whole theme and ambiance of BloodBorne is insane. So to start, I think everybody's played this game, especially if you're watching this stream. Like, there's a couple themes that we need to kind of just talk about right away before we get into it. One is the theme of fertility and motherhood and things like that. We know that Queen Yarnum, like the story is kind of about her, and we'll talk about this further along, but I believe that we're in her nightmare. To be honest, I haven't played this game for years, so there's things that I don't remember. Like, this is going to be basically a new walkthrough for me, which I'm actually super excited about. So there's themes of, dreams and nightmares, fertility. There seems to have something went wrong with her, the birth of her child, Murgo, and that is very similar to the overall theme of Elden Ring. But I don't really want to draw too many connections between them because they are their own games, but I think it's important to know that Miyazaki, he seems to have a central theme that he likes to play in his games, or to express in his games, and it's about balance. There seems to be a heavy element on fertility and kind of motherhood and being able to birth kind of a new generation, or even like a new version of yourself, rebirth, transformation, all these different types of things. So these are going to be the things that we are going to dive into as we talk about this. And then obviously, the whole nightmare, the whole hunt, pale blood, all these different types of things are going to be talked about as we go through. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. And since we've all seen this, I'm going to talk over some of these cutscenes to kind of give my own interpretation of what's going on. And just as a disclaimer for everybody, like, I don't expect my way of viewing this game to be mainstream or like the way it should be viewed, because I think Miyazaki, like the way that he does it is it's supposed to be viewed in a bunch of different ways. I just like to approach it from a psychological standpoint. I think there's a lot of substance to it. So let's crack on.
Oh, yeah. Pale blood. Well, you've come to the right place. Yharnam is the home of blood ministration. You need only unravel its mystery. But where's an outsider like yourself to begin? Easy, with a bit of Yharnam blood of your own. But first,
One thing I think that's worth noting is that for me, when they say the word Yarnum, I put it in the context of the queen and not necessarily of the place. So Yarnum blood, I think, directly means it's from Queen Yarnum, and not necessarily it's like from Yarnum, the town. And I think that adds a little bit of simplicity to the overall story being told, because I believe it's, you know, we're kind of in her her nightmare is what it seems to be. Age, definitely not milk toast. Very slim. Hair. That's pretty. Looks great. Big old beard. Bingo. Oh. Wait. Oh.
good. All signed and sealed. Now, let's begin the transfusion. Oh, don't you worry.
And one thing that's interesting is that it says, you know, when we wake up, it says, you know, we're in the nightmare. But the place that we're coming from seems very nightmarish, kind of on its own, which I always thought was really interesting. It's not like we're leaving a utopia and we're waking up into this nightmare. We're kind of leaving a nightmare and coming into a different one. And kind of the way that I interpret that is we come from the quote unquote real world, and things are really fucked up in that real world. And that real world is kind of like the psychology of Queen Yarnum and the events that she's going through. One big key thing of psychology is the whole element of the microcosm and the macrocosm. So basically, what you're experiencing on the inside is portrayed to the outside. So if your inner world is messed up and you're going through some tough times and some sort of trauma, it's going to be reflected outside. So if like Elden Ring, for example, I take that to be we're traversing through America's psyche, and her inner world of her psyche is portrayed outwards to the lands between, where things are kind of, you know, all messed up and scattered about and just kind of in disarray. And I think that's a common theme that Miyazaki likes to play into. So we got transfusion, waking up, and basically the only bit of clue we get is to seek pale blood. So we know that pale blood is something that we are. It seems that we came to Yarnum in search of pale blood, and we need to find it in order to transcend the hunt, which we all know basically what that means. You know, obviously we're what, like 8-9 years down the road now, but in in menstruation, pale blood is like this pinkish color of a menstrual cycle, and it is usually like the signifier of the beginning of a woman's menstrual cycle. So it's the beginning of her period, which is kind of the beginning of knowing that you didn't have a child or something along those lines. And with the theme of, menstruation, menstrual blood, fertility, all that kind of stuff, pink blood in that kind of sense is very important. Now, whether or not that's literally what the pale blood means, I don't know. Also, I don't have headphones, so I can't hear anything. So, if I suck, don't be mad at me. And also the kind of messengers that come up, and are basically how we know we're a hunter. There's one in particular that has a very kind of overt sorry, it's hard to think of. A very overt artistic kind of flair for of a vagina, which is another huge thing that Miyazaki does. Like in all of his games, you'll notice that over and over and over, especially when you're traversing from the beginning of the game, let's say, to like the world that the game is played in. You always kind of go through like from a cave, let's say, which is like a womb, out of the birth canal, and that's kind of like he likes to play with that kind of theme a lot. Another big kind of tie-in between Elden Ring and this game is the matriarchal kind of conception or idea, rather than the much more familiar patriarch, like a king. It's always a queen rather than a king. And kind of in not even psychological terms, but I would say just from a societal kind of norm, and that carries into different myths and epics and all this fables and all this type of stuff, is when it's a matriarch rather than a patriarch, the kind of overall health of the kingdom that is underneath that matriarch is all about fertility, is all about whether or not that queen can keep the bloodline going, more or less. Where that's definitely prominent in a patriarch, but it's more about, like, the patriarch is more about strength and being dominant. It's definitely still about carrying on the bloodline, but matriarch specifically, like the power that she has is about her fertility.
Welcome to the hunter's dream. This will be your home for now. I am Gehrman, friend to you hunters. You're sure to
I've always wondered if he makes up his name or if he's just forgotten it.
Don't think too hard about all of this. Just go out and kill a few beasts. It's for your own good. You know, it's just what hunters do. You'll get used to it. This was once a safe haven for hunters. A workshop where hunters used blood to enhance their weapons and flesh. We don't have as many tools as we once did, but
What's up, Smith Bob?
welcome to use whatever you find. Even the dog, should it please you.
It's a pervy old man. We'll talk about the significance of this once we actually get the workshop tool. But etching runes into your mind to gain some sort of bonus is like so overtly psychological that it's crazy. Now, let's read this. To escape the dreadful hunter's dream, halt the source of the spreading scourge of beast, lest the night carry on forever. Halt the source of the spreading scourge of beast, lest the night carry on forever. You got it. I never noticed that little flower on his wheelchair before. Going back through this game, I think is going to be really interesting because of the kind of connections that we can make, and I don't want to just only make connections to Elden Ring, but they come from the same brain. So the Bloodborne may not be directly connected. Obviously, it's not directly connected, but it may shed some light onto the brain of Miyazaki and how he conveys a story, which can help unfold the mysteries of his other works like Elden Ring. For example, we know like the flower symbol is like about rebirth, and it comes from a bud and all this different type of stuff, and Millicent's quest and things like that, and yeah. And then one last thing before we get going here is, so this I think is an incredibly important piece of evidence that we have as to what we're doing, us hunters, and where we're at. So, Hunter's Mark, a dangling upside down rune etched in one's mind, symbol of a hunter. So, and if you guys are watching this, you probably know a lot about my my background and how human psychology, and I use the teachings of Carl Jung specifically. He has the Red and Black books, which I don't know if you guys have ever heard of, but they're incredibly interesting pieces of works of his, where he literally is going into his own unconscious, and while he's there, he just has a notebook next to him, and he kind of scribbles down these runes and talks about his journey and the different entities that he interacts with along the way, and how they relate to the story being told and all this different type of stuff. But I believe that this Hunter's Mark is about our character is able to go into kind of the upside down world or the unconscious, and we're able to traverse from where we started, kind of before we got the blood, and into this nightmare world. And we'll talk more about runes, but it's a really fascinating part of this story, that runes are being etched into the mind of the hunter. We focus on them and we concentrate all of our things, all of our focus on it, and it allows us to do certain things. So to me, this shows that we are able to focus on the unconscious and go underneath the ripples, so to say, and interact with the different things that are happening in this nightmare. And I think that makes us unique, because we must have the mental fortitude to be able to handle this compared to somebody who is not a hunter, who just kind of immediately gets almost enveloped by the unconscious and becomes part of it rather than differentiated from it and can traverse it. So, yeah. Anywho, we'll get going here. And then there's the moon. There's Ronnie. Ronnie's just checking in on us. Let me see here. I like to think this is all a nightmare you have after passing out drunk in the street and you wake up in. That would be absolutely terrible. There's always towering trees in all of these games. Love that shit. Yeah, major areas. Visualizing the symbol in your mind. Yeah, the crag trees and things like that are always present in Miyazaki's works. And I'm gonna take my sweet ass time with this game too, because who knows when the DLC for Elden Ring is gonna be out. So this is just gonna kind of give us something to do until then. But yeah, I think we have a pretty good kind of base of understanding of how I'm gonna interpret this, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Oh, you must be a hunter, and not one from around here either. I'm Gilbert, a fellow
Arch trees, yeah. Oh, I said crag
You
trees.
must have had a fine time.
Aren't they crag trees?
Yarnum
I thought that was
has
the
a
name of them
special
in
way of treating guests.
the Dark Souls
I
opening.
don't think I could stand if I wanted to, but I'm willing to
I think they're
help
both, honestly.
if there's anything that can be done. This town is cursed. Whatever
Another
your reasons might be, you should plan a swift
distinction to make is there's a clear difference between an outsider like us who's coming from outside of Yarnum and then people who are from Yarnum who reside here permanently.
and all varieties of blood. Across the valley to the east of Yarnum lies the town of the Healing Church, known as the Cathedral Ward. And deep within Cathedral Ward is the old Grand Cathedral, the birthplace of the Healing Church's special blood, or so they say. Yarnumites don't share much with outsiders. Normally, they wouldn't let you near the place, but the hunt is on tonight. This might be your chance. Across the valley to the east of Yarnum, you'll find the Cathedral Ward. Deep within lies the old main cathedral, said to be the source of blood. I haven't heard of pale blood, but that's your best bet if it's anything to do with unique types of blood. Across the valley deep within, I haven't fancied.
Okay. Thanks, bro. So the church is just passing out blood. Make communion with their God. One thing I can't really remember is what the Night of the Hunt, is that ever actually explained? Are you serious? Man, I cannot believe. I think his name's Oscar or something. The fighting in this game is, I think it's the best of FromSoft's works. I liked Sekiro, but I don't know, the just overall theme of aggression that you have to have. The pairing system, like, it's also it's so beautiful. Oh no. Homemade? And like how our hand transforms into, you know, the hand of a beast, and that's how we like eviscerate the enemies. It's the story is just it's so good. So I would say here in this first area, although it's kind of tutorial land and farming land, it gives a little glimpse into the night of the hunt, which seems like, you know, from the kind of, oh, there's Siraj, that's cool. I'm just kidding, by the way. The kind of understanding from the townsfolk is that it's the night where you go and you kind of hunt down beasts. But they don't seem to fully grasp that they themselves are turning into beasts. Like, the next time they're going to be the ones being hunted instead of the hunter. Which is why I think it's... yeah, it really is the bleakest setting. Yeah, I mean, that's... oh, just the changes that you can make with your weapon, the transformation. So anyways, back to the night of the hunt. You know, it seems that a lot of different storytelling pieces that we'll get later on seem to indicate that the night of the hunt is kind of perpetual, which these people don't know. Like, everybody seems to think like it's literally just a night and then everything's gonna go back to normal. But we know, I mean, we just read that unless we stop the scourge, you know, the source of it, it's just going to carry on forever. And that seems to be, if we can find pale blood, and correct me if I'm wrong, because honestly, it's been a long time since I played this game. And when I did, I really didn't look super deep into the lore by any means. But pale blood is the one that kind of gets us, you know, from once we find pale blood, we're done with the hunt. And if pale blood is the beginning of a woman's menstruation, then I wonder if the hunt is a hunt for like an egg fertilizers. thinking out loud. Yeah, they attack you because you're an outsider. Yeah, a lot of them say this is all your fault, which is really interesting because it means that an outsider is the one who, to them, an outsider is the one that caused this, right? Like, this whole mess is caused from somebody that is outside of Yharnam. Ooh. That's when it sucks not having an audio.
Cause is the cause.
Cause is the cause. Yeah, that's right. Once we get down into there, into like the fishing village, we find out that there's been a curse put on. Well, isn't the curse just put on hunters, though? Oh, just gonna take a seat here. I will say BloodBorne does that more than any other game. It's super sensitive about like the buttons that you press and how you are holding the controller. It'll like do a gesture very easily, which is, I don't know. As long as it doesn't do it in a boss fight, I guess it doesn't really matter. Oh no.
Guys, I need to get some headphones. I didn't know he was there. Shit.
Excuse me, fellas. Excuse me. You guys are doing great. Great work here. Got him good. Keep your eyes peeled. Bunch of lunatics out there. I also kind of wonder if the word lunatic comes from get away. Like there used to be a correlation between the full moon and how people acted, or like the rate of kind of like crime and mischievous stuff, which they related to the full moon, and they call those people lunatics. So like when the full moon's out, you'd have a lot more, crime on the street and just weird things happening. Which I think was, kind of common vernacular back when it first was first kind of mentioned. But I think today we have a different understanding that it's because the full moon provides enough light for people to kind of like do stuff during the dark, during the night, that there's just a better chance of people kind of doing those activities because they can see and not necessarily like the actual like effect of the moon. Alright, got Hunter's Guard. One of the standard articles of hunter attire fashioned at the workshop, a fine piece of hunter attire that provides stable defense to anyone facing Yarnum's beastly threat. Recognizable by its withered feathers, this cap is fashioned after one of the old hunters. I think they all say the same thing. Yep. Unannounced by the cover of night. So, in psychological terms, when somebody goes through some sort of trauma, let's say like the death of a child, or something that their consciousness literally just can't process, it gets sent into the unconscious. And out of that traumatic event, there are these things called psychological defenses that basically are like stalwarts stopping that emotion or that trauma from ever reaching the surface. Like they get buried down deep down under different levels of psychological defenses. It's like castle walls, guarding some sort of treasure. Except what's being guarded is kind of this event and this emotion that was attached to this trauma. So to me, when I read that, and like the Yarnum's beastly, whatever that, here, I'll just pull it up. Provides defense to anyone facing Yarnum's beastly threat. Like the way that I perceive that is we are getting attacked because we are going towards this, the very thing, the very event, the very emotion that Yarnum is protecting herself against without really knowing. So like, let's say, like I'm sure a lot of you have heard when, especially in childhood, right? When somebody has some sort of psychological trauma happen to them during childhood, whatever that event looks like, it gets completely repressed, and it manifests itself in a bunch of different ways in their life. And they don't really know why this is happening to them. They don't know why they, act out in certain ways. They don't know why they have anxiety. They don't know why they're XYZ. And the further that they kind of go into their own unconscious and start to dismantle these defenses of their mind, they get to the root problem that is causing all of this. It's literally the source of their entire state of anguish, right? And that's how I interpret these games. Is I truly believe that Queen Yarnum is the kind of profile that we are taking a psychoanalysis on, and it's pretty clear that she's had some messed up things happen to her, and she is still kind of reeling from that event, and we are there to kind of permeate the threshold of the defenses, going through deeper and deeper, until we find the source and heal it. And one thing that you'll notice once we get to them a long time from now is this kind of like the orphan almost has like this gratitude towards us once we defeat him, right? Like this peace, this kind of letting go, that honestly is kind of like the whole purpose of therapy, is you're letting go of some sort of event, some sort of trauma that has been gripping you forever in the past. And maybe it's, maybe the dream that we're in, the nightmare that we're in, is actually Gehrman's, since he's kind of the culprit of this pain. I'm getting ass killed so much without headphones. Oh, jeez. And, Gehrman, by saying, don't think too much about it, just go do your thing, kill some beasts, and it'll be done with, could be him basically not ready to face the things that he's done, right? And the consequences of his actions, and kind of just dismisses us as, don't really look too much into it. Don't think too much about it. Just go do your job, and it'll be over soon enough. I don't know. There's so much richness in this story that. That it could be any number of things. Imagine if this game had a dog ending, like in Silent Hill 2. I don't know what that is. I've never played Silent Hill 2. But now I'm curious.
find an outsider. What a mess you've been caught up in. And tonight of all nights. Here, to welcome the new hunter.
Thank you.
Prepare yourself for the worst. There are no humans left. They're all flesh-hungry beasts now.
Are you serious? That's amazing.
Still lingering about.
Gosh, that'd be so great.
A hunter unnerved by...
Could you imagine the community if, like, Miyazaki just added that in there?
No matter.
Like, you had to do some sort of crazy
Here in our hearts.
sequence of events.
Different from the beasts themselves.
Take the pendant from Dark Souls 1 and somehow get it all the way through Elden Ring. And then that's the true ending. The pendant was actually a dog collar the whole time.
Trembling in your boots. A hunter must hunt.
He sent you back to Dark Souls 1 to get it. See ya. Madman's knowledge. So another like key aspect of psychology that's not necessarily unique to Carl Jung is that there is this transcendence, right? I mean, it's the whole point of therapy and meditation and Buddhism, like, and it's this kind of overall control and understanding of your mind, and that includes the unconscious aspects of your mind, and the unconscious aspects of your mind are very difficult to grasp and to integrate into your kind of overall understanding, and it takes a lot of time and effort and patience, but once you're able to do that and to effectively integrate all these different aspects into your mind, you become what Carl Jung says, your own inner God. You're so at peace and in control and whole and balanced within your own self that you don't really need any sort of external stimuli to make you whole, or to make you balanced. And the way that Carl Jung kind of went about this, as we talked about, at the beginning, his Black and Red books, is he literally kind of went into like this trance where he descended into his own unconscious. Stepping through your own shadow. Yeah, all these different things. Where he went into his own unconscious and kind of found these like deities that lived down there, that were kind of pulling the strings of his life, right? Like, the unconscious is the repressed, unknown elements of your psyche, but they pull a lot of the strings, and they are the reason kind of why we do the things that we do. Yeah, reading those books is tough. I would suggest like a YouTube, like an hour long YouTube kind of layman's term of it, because it's incredibly hard to understand. But and I'll shoot something in the description below about things that I've found that are helpful. But basically, it's like how we as a species are going to evolve and become enlightened and all this different type of stuff. And when he was going through this process, and even to this day, a lot of people say that he's kind of a madman, right? Like his techniques and his teachings were kind of very out there, right? Like on the fringes of psychology and understanding. But I think it's very apt into what we see here with Madman's knowledge. Skull of a madman touched by the wisdom of the great ones. Used to gain insight, making contact with the eldritch wisdom is a blessing, for even if it drives one mad, it allows one to serve a grander purpose for posterity. So there's a lot in there that connects to psychology. And there's also a lot in there in like, I don't want to just do psychology, because I also know that oh god, who's the guy with all the crazy creatures? Can you guys help me out? What is his are you being serious, Smith Bob? Anyways, I know this also connects to Lovecraft. That's it, and a lot of that stuff, which I think holds a ton of weight. But a madman touched by the wisdom of the great ones, to me, is like somebody who has traversed the inner workings of their psyche and has kind of made contact with the different deities within our own psyche, right? And a warning that Jung makes before somebody does this is like, he says, like, this is traversing into the unconscious is not for the uninitiated, right? Like, it's not for the faint of heart. You have to have a strong mind and a strong will, because you can almost get trapped down there. Like, it's almost like Inception, right? Where Leo goes all the way down into like this, he's trapped in this state of the unconscious or the subconscious where he can't break free from. And it can literally make somebody go crazy down there. But if you're able to go down, gain some wisdom, and then come up, you will become a much more enlightened, whole, balanced individual. So that's how I take this madman's knowledge. And obviously insight, right? Like, eyes on the inside is what you're doing. You're looking inside your own brain. You're looking into the depths of your own psyche. Wow, Smith, man, that is intense stuff. Hope things are going better for you, my man. It probably had to be a scary time. I don't have a place for you yet, so I'll come back. But basically, in the Black and Red books, he goes and, like I said, he I don't know how he did it, right? But he basically starts traversing the depths of his unconscious, and he starts having conversations with these entities that he finds there. And while he's doing it, like I said, he has this notepad next to him, and he starts drawing these runes that have never been seen before. They weren't hieroglyphic. They weren't any other known language, and I think what's really interesting is that in this game, the runes come from a person named Carol. And it's these runes that you etch into your mind at the memory altar that give the player bonuses. And Carol, in game, is the student at Bergenworth and develops this technique of basically transcribing the words of the Great Ones into runes, and then you slam them into your head, and that's basically exactly what Carl Jung was doing. He started as a student of Freud's and developed kind of this technique and understanding of the unconscious, and while he was in this unconscious state, transcribed runes that was the language of the unconscious. When the hunt began, the healing church left us, blocking the great bridge to the cathedral ward as old Yarnum burned to the ground that moonlit night. So, kind of how I've been talking about, when I read that, although old Yarnum is a place, right, in game that we can go to that was overrun by beasts and burned to the ground, I also take that to be a psychological, almost transformation, right? Like you're letting your old self go. You in a alchemical, psychological sense, you burn your old self to the ground, and from those ashes, like a phoenix, rises something new.
Oh, it's horrific beyond words, but it made me changed, man. And yeah, I've been through something similar. Not nearly as bad as that, but yeah. Young's description of the runes hurts my brain. Yeah. There's a crazy here. I'll just see if I can pull it up right now and drop it in somewhere. There's this video. Actually, it's how I started my kind of fascination with. It started with Elden Ring. The great runes and stuff. It somehow led me to this video about the Black Books and Carl Jung, and like it connected with me so well that it really got me down this rabbit hole. Let's see here. There you go. So I just dropped a little thing in the chat. It's about the Black Books and kind of the journey Carl Jung takes and the runes that come out of it and the story that they tell, which is just absolutely mind-bending and almost impossible to understand. But a theme that is very common in Miyazaki's storytelling is this kind of language of the gods or whatever like the entities are in that particular game. Like in Elden Ring, it's the language of light, and it's basically put together by runes that nobody understands, right? And the same thing here, the language of the Great Ones, which is brought to us by runes that nobody understands. It's a central theme in Miyazaki's world building, and the Futhark rune of life. What is that? I've never even heard of that. Oh, I see. Yeah. The Elder Futhark. What is that? I've never even heard of that. Interesting. Man, its symbols, yeah. That's a good one too. Oh, it's a language, is it? Okay. Cool. Alchemy of Happiness. That sounds good. Everyone should take time to examine their lives and beliefs in their heart. We're all so busy working. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. You know, our brains are only, they're only meant to handle so much stimulus. And in today's world, like, I forget, it was a stat that I read, but like the amount of information that we get in one day used to be the same amount of information that somebody would get in their entire lifetime. And to think that the human brain can adapt to that without like freaking the fuck out is just unrealistic. And this whole stigma of, mental health and you have to be tough about it and things like that. Like, that's just not the same world today. I'm surrounded by a computer, a TV screen, a microphone, PlayStation 5, got my phone here. Like, it's just, trauma, the very definition of trauma is that it's too much, it's an event where it's too much stimulus for your consciousness to, grasp, right? Like, it's overstimulating to the point where you can't even understand what's happening, and you kind of freeze, or you enter flight or fight mode or whatever, and that is literally like what we do on a daily basis. Like, you wake up, check your email, and you do this, and you go to work, and then blah blah blah, blah, and it's just it's crazy. Yeah. I gotta run, guys, but I'm gonna make this a pretty common thing. Whenever I have time to stream several times a week, hopefully, and hopefully I can do it for much longer than this. But I'm super excited about this. I think BloodBorne probably has the best story of all the FromSoft games, and I think that it's rich with psychological concepts and mysteries and stuff like that. So, if you guys are interested, give this a like, subscribe, and then that way you'll get notifications when I go live and all that kind of stuff. But as always, guys, stay happy, stay healthy. Much love from me, and I hope you guys have a good day. And I'll catch you.